Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Crystal and I've got a book chat video today. I'm going to wrap up the last week of July. Today is the 31st, the month is over, can you believe it? So this year is definitely going by pretty fast. So let's talk about the last few books that I read here in July, and if time sort of allows, I will kind of talk about July in general. But okay, I've read 5 more books this past week, so let's chat about them. First up is A Land More Kind Than Home by Wiley. And this is, I read this on audiobook, and it had 3 different narrators. And this is a Southern story. Wiley is from North Carolina. He lives out in Western North Carolina. And this story is set in a small Western North Carolina town, Appalachian town. And we really follow 3 separate characters. We've got a sheriff, kind of an older sheriff guy who has been a sheriff for a long time in the town. We've got a kind of elderly lady who's lived there all of her life and all of that. Everybody knows her. She knows everybody. She's actually a midwife, so she's delivered all the babies, of the town and everything. And then we follow a young boy. And, of course, their stories kind of connect in a way, particularly through this younger boy, because his older brother, dies. And of course, the sheriff is connected because he's trying to figure out what happened, and then the elderly lady is connected because of the church. And this church that is in this town is one of those old-timey snake handling churches that you hear about. And so we get these, we get some stories about these 3 people. We get some backstory with those folks, backstories of the town. And this was really wonderful. It was really wonderful. And Wiley is someone that's been on my radar for a while. One, because he's from North Carolina and I'm from North Carolina. That's a buzzword when I try to read these North Carolina authors, right? So I finally got to it. So I'm so excited. His writing is really wonderful. It's a slow kind of story. It kind of moseys and meanders. And it really builds up these characters and builds up this place. And gosh, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it. And so I'm finally glad to have finally read some Wiley. And I ended up giving that one 4 stars. I thought it was really wonderful. Just good storytelling, So yeah, I loved that one. I read The Gulp by Baxter. This was another of my choices for the Indie Accords readathon that I was doing for the month of July, and this one was for the prompt to read an author from New Zealand or Australia. Baxter is an Australian guy, and this is a story collection. I think it was 5 total stories, and they are all set in this town of Gulp, and it's a coastal town. The locals call it the Gulp, right? And all of this, like I said, they're all set in the same town. It's this kind of town where, it's not on the way to anything, so you have to go there purposefully. And some people don't want to go there. They're are frightened of things that goes on there. It's one of those towns where things just seem to happen, the strange, the weird. And a lot of these stories were a bit strange and weird, and I really enjoyed them. It is connected to the sea at times, and which I liked that as well. And I really enjoyed Baxter's writing. It was very inventive and unique, these stories, and the final story definitely gave you sort of a link to connect all of the other ones. And yeah, I really ended up liking this one a lot. It was just, kind of my kind of strange, and it's this little town inhabited, kind of full of strange folks, the weird folks and some dangerous folks too. I really liked it, and gave that one 4 stars also. All right, y'all look at my lists, because if I don't have a list, I won't, remember anything. Then listen to another audiobook for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. This was just one I had on hold, so the hold came in, so I gave it a listen. I never read a lot of Roald. I never read Roald Dahl as a kid. What I was trying to say. I read everything that I've read by him. I've read it as an adult. I of course grew up watching the movie, the original movie, Gene Wilder movie. I've seen that a bajillion times. Love it, of course. But I never read the book, so I said, let me put it on hold. And the audiobook was done really well. I did not write the narrator down. I apologize. I try to do that, but I came up with some mixed feelings about this story, though. The crux of the story is what you know about the story. There's Charlie Bucket, and he lives with his parents and his grandparents, and they are what we call here dirt poor. And they've got nothing, right? And there's a chocolate factory, and Willy Wonka puts out the golden tickets, and there's Veruca Salt and Augustus Gloop. All of that's the same, the whimsy and fun of being in the factory, all of that's the same. And the somewhat darkness, a little bit, is the same. But there were some things I just didn't like. And I've noticed this in some of Roald Dahl stories also, is how he talks about fat people is just like a little much. Like, you don't have to like talk about every role and everything. Like, it's a little much. And the discussion around the Oompa Loompas, I don't know. It left me feeling a little like uncomfortable. I don't know. And again, it's an older book, so I kind of, I understand that, and I just kind of whatever, but I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it. I think I'll stick to the movie. Let's see. Lastly, is this it? No, two more. I'm sorry. I'll learn how to get. Library of Souls by Richard Cardenas. This was my final book for the India Quarters Readathon, and this was for the middle grade prompt. And it was surprisingly a little hard to find indie middle grade. There's some out there, but there's not a lot. So I know that Richard is a writer because I watch his YouTube videos. Again, I'll link that below. And so I dove into this one, and it was a lot of fun. It's a story. We follow a young boy who his parents die in the beginning of the story, and he is sort of sent to live with his uncle. Now this little boy also just happens to be what he calls a ghost talker. He can see dead people, basically, and a lot of people in his family have that ability, except his uncle. And his uncle was like really bitter about it. So he, once the little boy lives with his uncle, he sort of uses him as a way to kind of make money. So they hire themselves out to rid places of ghosts, as they're called, in to do. His uncle is saying that he's the one that's doing all the work, right? But he's not able to do that, so it's the little boy that's doing it all along. But the main of this story is that they're called in to check out this library in this town, and it has a bunch of ghosts living in this library because all sorts of folks have died in it over the years. And so they get there, and there's the librarian, and then there's another little girl there who kind of connects with the little kid, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, how can they get rid of it, and who are these ghosts, and what do they want, that kind of thing. And it gives us little twists. Things aren't quite what they seem, and the characters were really fun. I thought it was really well written. I really enjoyed this story, and so I was very happy to read it. And so if you are looking for a middle grade, highly recommend it. You can read it on Kindle Unlimited if you have that service. So highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun and a good it's always good to I like to read middle grade in general, so I like to throw in those in from time to time, especially after I read so much dark and heavy stuff sometimes. Okay, so lastly for the month, I finished Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane. This was my book club pick for the month of July. A little book club I run with a few friends of mine. And this is a reread for me, and I love it. I loved it all over again. All the stars for this story. It's so good. And I have this really wonderful illustrated edition that I bought for myself because I wanted it. And gosh, this story, okay. We start off, we've got a man who, I'm trying to find you some cool images. A man who's come home for a funeral, and he kind of needs a break from the funeral, so he goes to sort of where he used to live growing up and that kind of thing, and he finds he's kind of drawn down the lane, and he's like, gosh, I remember there was a house down here, and there was a little girl that lived here that I used to know, kind of thing. There was a duck pond and all this stuff. And so he walks down the lane and he sees the little house there, and lo and behold, one of the women is still living in the house. And all of a sudden, all these memories come back to this one particular time when, well, he was just shown something else. Am I right? Something happens at his house. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want it to be a spoiler. But something happens, and he meets the women at this house. There's old Mrs. Hemstock, and there's Mrs. Hemstock, and this little Letty Hemstock. And they learn that there are things that are unseen in this world that kind of can cause damage to you, and so they are fighting the bad. They were fighting the big bad, right? This big creature. And it's so good. It's so whimsical and dark at times, and quite terrifying a lot of the times. I consider this a horror story. Some people may consider it more a fantasy. I call it a horror story. I think it's terrifying at times. Look at this. Oh, it's so pretty. And I just love it. It's Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman. I love this book, 5 stars. So that wrapped up July for me, and I'll spend a couple minutes here. I had a freaking awesome reading month in July. I read 25 things. I don't even know how that happened. I don't even remember reading half of the stuff. I do, but this was all in the same month, you know. I don't know. The readathon definitely helped me out. I was able to clear all the board, so that was definitely helpful. And yeah, I got all my book club stuff finished this time. I had an awesome reading month. You know, the Fisherman by John Langan, loved it. Crossroads, finally, by Laura Hightower. Gosh, that's amazing. Patience of a Dead Man, so scary. Finally read some Appalachian stories with David Joy and Wiley Cash. Dove into the Wool series that Scott over at Book Invasion started that the read-along for. So I finished up Wool, and it was fantastic. Dove into some more Haley Piper, which I love. Needful Things read-along. I mean, gosh, y'all, I read so much good stuff. And God, I even had a few rereads this month, which I really don't do a lot of rereads. So I'm so excited about my reading for this month. It was just an awesome month. I think I only had one DNF, and that was Broken World. I started it, I just didn't end up liking it, and that's fine, because I still read 25 books, you know. And yeah, I just had a pretty good month, so I'm very excited about that. I did put out my my August TBR already. If you'd like to check that out, if you haven't checked it out yet. One thing I will mention is that I forgot to say that I had pre-ordered Haley Piper's new book. That's coming out, I think, next week. I will be reading that probably as soon as it comes in the mail, so add that to the list. Queen of Teeth, I can't wait. But I'm hoping August is just going to be, you know, just as good as July was. And yeah, I'm in love with my reading right now, having an awesome year. And I think that's going to wrap it up for me for this one. Thanks as always so much for watching. I always appreciate it. Thanks for the likes and the comments, and subscribe if you haven't, if you'd like to. And anything else? I think that's it. Happy reading in August, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.